Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So welcome dear devotees. We are reading Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter number 15. The Pandavas retire timely. Today we are going to start our discussion from text number 7. We are in the past times in Srimad Bhagavatam where Lord Krishna has departed from this planet and he went to Dwarka. Yudhishthir Maharaj was observing the bad signs. He is talking to Bhima about how what he observed, all the different signs. And then after 7 months passed, Arjun didn't come back. And then finally, when he comes back, he was in tears. He was grief stricken. He is full of sorrow. And then Yudhishthir Maharaj was asking him lot of questions. What happened? Did not respect any elderly person? Did you do not feed someone who was hungry? And all different uh, questions we saw in the previous chapter asked, and right in the beginning of this as well. And then last in our last discussion, we saw that finally Arjun starts speaking that what has actually happened and what is the cause of his sorrow and grief. And we'll continue the discussion from that particular while Arjun is speaking to Yudhishthir Maharaj when he comes back. Text number 7. Text number 7, the Sanskrit can be recited in few different ways, but I am going to do in a Brahma Samhita meter. यत् संश्रया द्रुपदगेहमुपागतानां राज्ञां स्वयंवरमुखे स्मरदुर्मदानां तेजोरितं खलु मया विहतश्च मत्स्य सज्जीकृतेन धनुषा दिगता च कृष्णा. Monica Mataji, you want to read English translation?
Yes, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, everyone. Text 7, right, Prabhuji?
Yes.
Yeah. Only
Of
by
Srimad Bhagavatam, just in case.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Only by his merciful strength was I able to vanquish all the lusty princes assembled at the assembly of King Draupad for the selection of the bridegroom. With my bow and arrow, I could pierce the fish target and thereby gain the hand of Draupadi. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much. So here Arjun is continuing his discussion or his explanation, talks to Yudhishthir Maharaj. He is telling, only by his merciful strength I was able to vanquish all the lusty princes assembled at the palace of King Draupad. In the previous verse, we also saw that how Arjun says that I have just lost him, like by whose separation for a moment the whole universe is losing. The whole universe, it seems to be devoid of life. And then he continues that he remembers, next many verses we will see that Arjun, how he remembers how Krishna participated, helped him, protected him, assisted him in all different stages in during the Pandava's life. So we'll see this particular one talks about the Swayamvar ceremony of, see what is it written? Yan Samshraya Drupada Geham. Yat Samshraya Drupada Geham. By whose merciful, by strength, Drupad Geham means in the house or the palace of King Drupad. Ragnam Swayamvara Mukhe. Swayamvara Mukhe means the Swayamvar ceremony of Draupadi. Smar Durmadanam. Durmadanam means the all the prince who were assembled there of all the royal kings. They were all full of lusty desires. They became lusty. So this Swayamvara ceremony of Draupadi, we can go and discuss little bit how it happened and what are the learning points in that. This Swayamvar ceremony was organized by Draupadi's father, Drupad, and the brother Drishtadyumna. So when Draupadi's marriage was about, she was ready, all the kings, the royal princes from all around the world, they were invited, and they were all assembled in a place at the Drupadi Geham at the palace of King Drupad. Now, this was not a one-day ceremony where people come and Draupadi will choose one and put the garland and the ceremony is done. It is mentioned that this Swayamvar ceremony was a 16-day festival. For the 15 days, first 15 days, there were lot of different परफॉर्मेंसेस लाइक म्यूजिक अपने शादी में भी होता है ना जैसे संगीत होता है जैसे डांस म्यूजिक देयर आर सम शोज लाइक बिकॉज दे वर ऑल द किंग्स कमिंग क्षत्रियास there were fighting shows swords wrestling match all these different things were going on for 15 days and on the 16th day was the actual swayamvara ceremony and when Draupadi comes with the gold क्या बोलते हैं थाली plate with the garland in on that and when she comes in the assembly and the beautiful assembly the palace of King Drupad with bedecked jewels golden robe silken curtains very beautiful and when Draupadi comes it's so beautiful that all these prince from all around the world they and that's why what is it mentioned durmadanam that means they uh, Arjun says, I was able to vanquish all the lusty princes. They all became lusty when they saw the beauty of Draupadi. And were sitting on their asan. And then they were saying that, ye meri hogi, she is mine. She meri hogi. Then they were all the kings were telling to Draupadi. And they were discussing between themselves. And that's why it is mentioned that Durmadana. Now, what happened? Drishtadyumna, Draupadi's brother, and Drupad, they arranged, they have to find a suitable bridegroom for Draupadi. So they arranged a fish, like a wooden or a metal fish, on the ceiling, rotating. On from the ceiling, below the fish, there was a wheel. The wheel chakra, that chakra had a hole in that. And from that hole, the arrow needs to be pierced through the hole from the chakra to the eye of the fish. And that kind of test Drishtadyumna and Drupad had organized. And now the Kshatriya or the person who was going to release the arrow to the eye of the fish, that person can't see the fish directly. That person needs to see the fish in the reflection in the water. There was a pot or there was a tray or some kind of tray of water, and that water was also wobbling. So looking at that wobbling water, the reflection of the fish, with his eyes and the face looking down, the person had to shoot the arrow where the fish was moving, the wheel was moving, and through the arrows, the fish eyes must be pierced. And those who can do that, after that also, it's a Swayamvar ceremony. So even if a person can do that, Draupadi still had a choice that if she chooses, she can put the garland and then Draupadi will get married. So as a pura taste. Dhristadyumna and Drupad ne pura organize kiya. Then all the people in the palace of Drupad, Shalyaraj, King Shalya came, Shishupal was there, Duryodhan was there, Karna, Shakuni, Mama, they were all assembled there. Different Kshatriyas, they come, they couldn't pass even the bow and arrow. The bow itself was very heavy. The bow and arrow, first person has to lift the bow, then the person has to string the arrow, and in itself some kshatriyas, some kings couldn't even lift. Some people uh, could lift but couldn't pierce. So all different princes kshatriyas tried. When the turn came of Karna, Draupadi mentioned to Drishtadyumna, his brother, that Karna is not eligible. Karna shouldn't try this. Why? Because Karna is known as Sutaputra, or Prabhupada mentions in the purport of this that Karna is known as the son of a carpenter. Some people say somewhere it's mentioned Karna was son of a chariot driver. Here Prabhupada mentions in the purport Karna was known as the son of a carpenter. So, and Draupadi was at a higher varna. In Vedic civilization, the the marriage, boy and girl, the boy, so Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra, the higher Varna boy can marry to the lower Varna girl. Like Brahmana boy can marry to Kshatriya girl. But Kshatriya girl can't marry to Shudra boy. Like that, there are four Varnas. The Vedic civilization, because the sanskar, the mindset, the rituals, everything was set in such a way for four different Varnas and ashramas, and that's why this was there. So when Karna stood up, Draupadi mentioned to Drishtadyumna that Karna is not eligible. I won't be getting married. So Karna didn't even try shooting the arrow. After that, Duryodhan's turn came. Duryodhan turns came. Then Duryodhan said, "मैं जाऊंगा, मैं पूरा arrow fish की eyes में लगाऊंगा, and I will win Draupadi, and then I will tell Draupadi to marry Karna." दोनों एक दूसरे Karna. We know that Karna and Duryodhan made Karna a king, and how Karna was loyal to Duryodhan. It is mentioned they both were um, it is mentioned that how they actually needed each other. दोनों को एक दूसरे का जरूरत था. Karna needed Duryodhan and Duryodhan needed Karna, and that's why they were all loyal to each other. In reality, there was no like a love or friendship or genuinity in the relation. There was मतलब था दोनों का. Duryodhan also needed him, Karna also needed him, and there was no genuine relationship. His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj mentions that it is our duty to find out what is genuine love, what is genuine friendship, what is genuine relationships. It is our duty to utilize our time and find out the genuine love and relationships. Otherwise, in a moment of time, Radhanath Maharaj explained so beautifully that किसी का अगर पैसा चला गया तो कैसे भी करके पैसा वापस आ जाएगा. किसी का reputation चला गया, after a while the reputation will also come back. But the moment is lost, the time is lost, the time will not come back. Millions of dollars भी कोई दे देता है, समय वापस नहीं आता. And that's why it is very important to utilize our time to find out, who are the real friends, who are the genuine relationships, what is the genuine love. Here Duryodhan and Karna, they were there was a necessity for both of them. He needed him, and Karna needed Duryodhana, and that's why. So what happens? Duryodhan comes. Duryodhan lifts the bow. He ties the string. He looks at the reflection in the water, wobbly water, taranga, jal, aisa likha hai. And then he shoots the arrow. From the chakra, the arrow goes and it just hits side of the eye of the fish, not exactly on the eye of the fish. थोड़ा side में चला जाता है. Then he goes back one by one. All the different kshatriyas are finished, and then the kshatriya kings were saying, अभी क्या होगा? सारे क्षत्रिय कोई नहीं कर सका, अभी क्या करेंगे? ये तो problem हो गया. Then Drishtadyumna and Drupad. See, there was a big assembly in the palace. So बहुत सारे ब्राह्मणास भी बैठे हैं, बहुत सारे Kshatriyas बैठे हैं, lot of people are there. The whole Swayamvara ceremony, it's a very beautiful arrangement. So when all the Kshatriyas finished, Drishtadyumna comes and says, चलो अभी कोई क्षत्रिय ये जो टेस्ट था वो पास नहीं कर सका. Now, but there are some Brahmanas also sitting in the assembly. अगर Brahmana is also a higher caste, so अगर Brahman में से किसी को आना है and they want to try voluntarily, they are not forcing, they are not pointing to any particular one, but सारे Brahmans जो बैठे हैं उसमें से किसी को आना है तो कोई आ सकता है, and they can try it out with the bow and arrow and pass this test. अगर वो ब्राह्मण में से कोई करता है, then Draupadi will consider as to get married. उस टाइम पे just before this Swayamvara ceremony, the Lakshagra, the wax house, that pastime happened. When Pandavas, they were into that Lakshagra, wo fire ho gaya tha, and they escaped through the tunnel which Vidura hinted, and uh, they escaped and they were hiding. So when they escaped the Lakshagra, Pandavas, they were hiding in a Brahmana family at Ekchakra. And when they were living as Brahmanas. So in this Swayamvara ceremony, Krishna was also present, but in the Brahmanas side, all these five Pandavas were sitting. And when this announcement happened, कि कोई सी Brahmana को आके try करना है, Arjuna stood up. And then Yudhishthir Maharaj also hinted. Arjun looked at Krishna, uh, got his permission. Just isharo isharo mein baat hoti thi. Krishna also blessed him. And this again learning point that whenever a devotee, starts up a project, takes something up, he gets the blessings of Krishna. And then Arjun comes forward and he lifts the bow, he does everything, he finishes whatever needs to be done. He shoots the arrow looking at the water, fish he hits at the eye of the fish at the target. And then Draupadi already knew, he's Arjuna. She comes closer, she puts the garland, Swayamvar ceremony happens. In this particular pastime, the Shishupal was also present. And we all know that how Shishupal is always envious. And then Shishupal started. Hang on, एक मिनट, ये क्या, ये तो पूरा अपमान हो रहा है, तुम हो कौन से कुल के हो, तुम ब्राह्मण, कहाँ से आए हो, कौन से गांव से हो, व्हाट आर योर पेरेंट्स नेम, कौन सा कुल है तुम्हारा. एंड ही टेल्स, शिशुपाल टेल्स टू धृष्टद्युम्न एंड द्रुपद, ये तो पूरा क्षत्रियों का अपमान है, इतना हार्ड टेस्ट तुमने सेटअप किया है, दिस इज नॉट राइट, आप क्षत्रियों का अपमान कर रहे हो. एंड देन ही बिकेम वेरी एंग्री and he started creating lot of disturbances. Bow and arrow le liya, and he was about to shoot Drupad and Drishtadyumna. And to assist him, because Karna was also insulted in this pastime, so Karna also took bow and arrow and he also started to fight, with all these princes. And Krishna was also present, and these Pandavas, they were disguised as Brahmanas there, and they started, and there was a big mess problem started. At that time, Arjun, he got the bow and arrow of Drishtadyumna. द्रौपदी को स्वयंवर अब भी हुआ है गार्लैंड पर, द्रौपदी को अर्जुन ने पीछे किया, धृष्टद्युम्न से बो एंड एरो लिया, एंड ही रिलीज्ड एरो. शिशुपाल को गिरा दिया, बाकी सारे जो प्रिंस मैसअप कर रहे थे उनको गिरा दिया. एंड देन कर्णा, ही लॉक्ड इट अप विद द एरोज. अर्जुन शॉट द एरोज इन सच ए वे दैट कर्णा वाज लॉक्ड इन. एक एरो इधर गर्दन से, हैंड से, दूसरा एरो ऐसा, हेड पूरा लॉक हो गया करना. ही कुडंट इवन मूव. एंड दैट टाइम कर्णा सेड कि मुझे कोई हरा सकता है वो चार ही लोग हैं. यू मस्ट बी वन ऑफ दिस फोर. फर्स्ट, यू मस्ट बी सुप्रीम लॉर्ड विष्णु हिमसेल्फ. सेकंड, यू मस्ट बी देवराज इंद्र. थर्ड, यू मस्ट बी माय गुरु द्रोणाचार्य. और अगर आप ये तीनों में से नहीं हो, आप विष्णु नहीं हो, आप इंद्र नहीं हो, आप द्रोणाचार्य नहीं हो, तो यू मस्ट बी
Guru
प्रतापुत्र
Parshuram. Parshuram, Dronacharya was not Guru.
नहीं नहीं, the Dronacharya was able to defeat Karna.
Okay.
So Karna said that if someone can defeat me, only Dronacharya, Indra, Vishnu, and Prithaputra. He knew that Arjuna had this power that to defeat Karna. So he said, मुझे ये चार में से ही कर सकता है. And then as soon as he said, तुम Karna said that तुम Arjun हो सकते हो, then Shishupal got angry again. ये पूरा, ये तो चीटिंग हो गया पूरा. ये क्षत्रिय होके ब्राह्मण के वेश में आता है, क्षत्रियों का अपमान करता है. It started a big mess. So at that time, Krishna interferes. And अभी आप, when you read this translation, you understand what Arjuna is saying. That by his merciful strength, I was able to vanquish all the lusty princes assembled at the palace of King Drupad. Krishna interferes and वो बोलता है, शिशुपाल तुम तो हमेशा बुरा बुरा बोलते रहते हो, तुम्हारे खुद से धनुष उठाया नहीं गया, तुम खुद अच्छे से परफॉर्म नहीं कर पाए और इतना मैच कर रहे हो, ऐसा भला बुरा बोल रहे हो. एंड देन कृष्णा टुक ओवर द होल इश्यू. एंड स्लोली अर्जुन, 5 पांडवास, द्रौपदी उसको पीछे करके बोले, चैरियट तैयार रखा था कृष्णा ने, एंड बोले यू ऑल गो, आई विल डील विद द सिचुएशन. इन दैट भीमा आल्सो गॉट वेरी एंग्री. भीमा बाहर पूरे पूरे पेड़ उठा के वो सबको, जो भी शिशुपाल और कर्ण को जो भी किंग हेल्प कर रहे थे, वो पूरा भी पेड़ उठा के उसको मार रहे थे. दैट्स हाउ दे फाउंड आउट दैट दे कुड बी पांडवास. सो कृष्णा ने सबको भगा दिया. So that's why Arjun is remembering all these things. There are so many learning points also come in this particular pastime. Just looking at the time, एक श्लोक में भी इतना. Actually today morning only I read शिला प्रभुपाद says, अभी ये भागवत सप्ताह बहुत पॉपुलर हो रहा है, 7 दिन में पूरा भागवतम. Prabhupada writes that one slok of Bhagavatam can be discussed in 7 years. भागवत सप्ताह लोग पूरा भागवत 7 दिन में खत्म कर रहे हैं. Prabhupada says, I don't know where this fashion has come. I have no idea. Prabhupada said Bhagavatam is so vast, so many learning points that one sloka can be discussed in 7 years, for 7 years. That's how much deep Bhagavatam is. So in this particular pastime, what we see that Arjuna was piercing the arrow, Draupadi ka Swayamvar tha, fighting Karna ke saath, Shishupal ke saath, everything was going on. But finally, Krishna had to intervene. Krishna had to help him, and Arjuna needs to take help from Krishna, and that's how he was safely got out from this. There are many examples in Srimad Bhagavatam where we need to take shelter of Krishna at the end. चाहे कितना भी struggle कर लो, चाहे कितना भी fighting कर लो, चाहे कितना भी actions कर लो, but finally a person needs to take care or take shelter of Krishna eventually. That is compulsory. गजेंद्र पास्ट टाइम इज देयर, क्रोकोडाइल ने पकड़ लिया था उसका लेग, इतना लॉन्ग टाइम, सालों सालों के लिए फाइटिंग चल रहा था, बट फाइनली गजेंद्र took the shelter of the Lord and then got protected. Even Bhagavad Gita maybe Arjuna was confused, Arjuna did not know what to do, struggling in his mind to make the decision, took the shelter of Krishna, and then finally Yatra Yogeshwara Krishna Tatra Partho Dhanurdhara. The victory happens when Arjuna took the shelter of Lord Shri Krishna. But on the other side, if a person is doing everything, but if a person does not take shelter of Krishna, we have the example of Hiranyakashipu, that Hiranyakashipu did not surrender and then he lost. So many learning points that we a person कितना भी actions कर लेंगे, कितना भी struggle कर लेंगे, कितना भी fighting कर लेंगे, जो भी होगा, at the end a person needs to surrender to Krishna to get success, and that is very important. चलो text number 8. Anshul Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji Dandavat Pranam. Hare Krishna, all devotees Dandavat Pranam. Text 8, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. यत्सन्निधावहमुखाण्डवमग्नयेदाम् इन्द्रं च सामरगणं तरसा विजित्य लब्धा सभामयकृताद्भुतशिल्पमाया दिग्भ्यो हरन् नृपतयो बलिमद्वरेते. Translation. Because he was near me, it was possible for me to conquer with great dexterity the powerful king of heaven, Indradev, along with his demigod associates, and thus enable the fire god to devastate the Khandav forest. And only by his grace was the demon named Maya saved from the blazing Khandav forest, and thus we could build our assembly house of wonderful architectural workmanship, where all the princes assembled during the performance of Rajsuya Yagna and paid you tribute. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you. So here Arjuna is remembering another pastime of the Khandava forest. He is saying that it was possible for me to conquer with great dexterity the powerful king of heaven Indradev along with his demigod associates, and thus enable the fire god to devastate the Khandava forest. We know the Khandava forest. Agni Dev once Agni लोग यज्ञ में बहुत सारा घी डालते हैं. So once Agnidev developed indigestion because lot of ghee was poured to in the Agni. So Agnidev developed indigestion, and then Agnidev goes to Brahmaji and explains, "Mujhe, I am having this sickness. What to do?" Brahmaji suggests the pura Khandava forest burn kar do, and that fire will help to solve your problem. And then Agnidev, he goes, but by himself he can't. So he needs a help. So he dressed up as in that Khandava forest. Actually, there was lots of snakes, lots of naga. They were assembled. They stay in there, and one of them was Takshak, and Takshak was Indra's friend. and Indra wouldn't let that Khandava forest burn because Takshak was Indra's friend. तो इंद्र तो बर्न नहीं करने देगा. अग्निदेव बीमार था because of indigestion. He had to burn. तो क्या करेंगे? अग्निदेव wanted a help. So Agnidev disguised as a Brahmana goes to Krishna and says, I need a help, Krishna and Arjun. Krishna loves Brahmanas. Namo Brahmane Devaya go Brahmane Taja. So Krishna says, okay. He says, we will assist you to burn this Khandava forest. Then Indra gets upset. How the Khandava's forest will be burned? My friend Takshak, and he's going to take care of them. And his side, Agnidev already got help from Krishna and Arjun. So the fight started. And that's why this Arjun is remembering that by his grace, I was able to win. So what happened in that forest? Arjuna made with the arrows, he made, because Indra kya karta hai? Barish karta hai. So whenever they were trying to burn the forest, Indra was pouring rain, thunderstorms. And Arjuna with his arrows made like an umbrella. पूरा ऐसा network बना दिया कि पानी नहीं आएगा. And Krishna with his Sudarshan Chakra, he was blowing all the wind so that the fire can spread and Agni can cure the disease. So as a fighting chal raha tha, it's a big fighting. But in this fighting, there was one Maya, kya likha hai? Maya Dana. There was one demon, Asura. Maya Dana was staying in that forest. And Krishna wanted to kill that because that Asura, he was very mystical. He was creating a lot of illusory weapons, flying city weapons, and all these mystical things he was creating. And he was helping Asura. So Krishna wanted to kill. But when this fire happened, Mayadana सीधा अर्जुन के पास गया and he took shelter of Arjun and he said, can you please save me, I am in trouble. आज एक क्षत्रिय, अर्जुन और क्षत्रिय, कोई अपने शेल्टर में आता है, कोई प्रोटेक्शन मांगता है, तो क्षत्रिय must protect. So Arjun says, yes, I will protect you. And now Krishna wanted to kill him, but Arjuna as a kshatriya, he said, yes, I will protect you. So उस टाइम पे Krishna, Prabhupada mentions beautiful in this purport that Krishna was very pleased that Mayadana took the shelter of a devotee of an Arjun, and then Lord also saved him. Lord did not kill him because he took the shelter of a devotee. He possessed so much of mystical power. Srila Prabhupada writes that the demons, he was a demon, the demons possess wonderful supernatural powers to create some wonderful things, but they create disturbance. Because of their power, because of creating this supernatural things, they create disturbance. And Prabhupada writes, this modern day scientists, they are like these demons. They create wonderful things, but it creates disturbance in the society, in the human civilization. And Prabhupada gives an example of nuclear weapons, that the modern day scientists, they create all these nuclear weapons, but it's actually caused the great disturbance to the human society. Now, Prabhupada writes another thing very beautiful in the purport is that in bhakti, mercy of a devotee is more valuable than mercy of Lord Sri Krishna. How? Mayadana took the shelter of Arjun and Krishna protected him. So taking shelter of a devotee, the learning point is highlighted in this purport. Both Agnidev and the Lord, they stopped chasing Mayadana when they saw Arjuna is protecting them. So, mercy of a devotee is more valuable. Taking shelter of a devotee is more valuable. Prabhupada writes, Lord Sri Krishna, being very pleased with Maya because he took shelter of a devotee, then in return, Krishna asked him, when Mayadano said, okay, you protected me, मैं आपके लिए क्या करूं? Arjun said, no need. He was very grateful. He said, no need of anything. But Krishna asked them to create that wonderful Indrapast, the illusory. हमने देखा है ना that the floor was made in such a way that it looked like a water. And when Duryodhana comes, he was trying to, first he fell down, he got wet. Draupadi laughed. Then another time, he was trying to lift his dhoti or feet up, thinking that it's water, but actually it's made up of crystal. So that Indrapas, that Maya, that assembly house, in return, this Mayadana helped to make. So again, this pastime, Arjun is remembering. Chalo, next, 7 o'clock already. Radhika Mataji, 9.
Hare Krishna, everyone. Yattejasa nripashiro nigram ahanmakhartam aryo anujastava gajayuta sattva virya tena hrita pramatha natha makhaya bhupa yanmochitastad anayam balim adhvarete. Your respectable younger brother, who possesses the strength of 10,000 elephants, killed by his grace Jarashanda, whose feet were worshipped by many kings. These kings had been brought for sacrifice in Jarasandha's Mahadhairava Yagya, but they were thus released. Later, they paid tribute to your majesty. Hare Krishna.
So here, thank you. Arjun is remembering the past time how Jarasandha was killed. Jarasandha, when he was born with two queens, two half bodies was born. The big pastime. Prabhupada explains nicely in the purport. With the interest of time, I will cut short. When he was born as the two different separate parts and one she demon, he joined together, and that's why it's the demon's name was Jara, and then Sanda. He was joined together, but he was very strong, and he was relative of Kamsa, maternal uncle of Krishna, and that's why he was very envious. There after Kamsa was killed, there was so many times Krishna and Jarasandha were fighting. Krishna did not want the army of Jarasandha to be killed, the soldiers. So that's why he had strategically made a plan. They disguised as they what is it mentioned here? They developed a plan. Krishna, Bhima, and Arjuna together went to Jarasandha in the dress of a poor Brahmana. And then they developed a plan. They arranged a fight that Bhima and Jarasandha will fight. But Bhima, even though he had a strength of 10,000 elephants, he couldn't, he was not able to defeat Jarasandha. And then Krishna hinted them that how Jarasandha could only be killed by splitting them, because he was born in two parts. So Sandha, like he was together. So Krishna hints Bhima that split him, and that's the only way he can kill him. So Arjuna is remembering that even though that how younger brother had 10,000 elephant strength, but it is by Krishna's grace Jarasandha was killed by Bhima. One more. Krishna Prabhu, number 10.
Hare Krishna, everyone. Patnyastava kalpata mahabhisheka slagishtacharukabaram kitavai sabhayam sprishtam vikarya padayo patitashru mukhya yasta striyo akrita hatesha vimukta kesha. Translation: It was he only who loosened the hair of all the wives of the miscreants, who dared open the cluster of your queen's hair, which had been nicely dressed and sanctified for the great Rajasuya sacrificial ceremony. At that time she fell down at the feet of Lord Krishna with tears in her eyes.
Thank you. So Arjun is telling to Yudhishthir Maharaj that it was he only, that means it was Krishna only, who loosened the hair of all the wives of the miscreants. When Draupadi was, the gambling match happened, and when Draupadi was lost in that bet, Dusasan grabbed the respectable hair of Draupadi and loosened that. And at that time, Draupadi took the shelter of Krishna. And here Arjun is telling it was he only in the war. So loosen the hair, that means here in the war, when all the Dusasan and everyone was killed, their wives, they were widow, and widow, they loosen their, they don't tie their or dress up nicely. And that is what Arjun is mentioning. That because they insulted Draupadi, Krishna, he made sure that loosened the hair of all the wives of the miscreants who dared upon the cluster, open the cluster of your queen's hair. So he's telling to you this, Maharaj, your queen's hair. So in the purport, Srila Prabhupada highlights the importance of respecting devotees. Srila Prabhupada says that Krishna may tolerate insult towards him, but Krishna never tolerates insult towards his devotees. One must be very respectful towards the devotees. Otherwise, the Lord will never tolerate. And here we see that how Lord made sure that because Draupadi was disrespected, all the miscreants, they were killed and their wives were loosened the hair. Prabhupada writes in the purport that by insulting a great soul, one has to forego all the results of pious acts and benedictions. किसी ने कितना भी कुछ अच्छा किया हो, भक्ति में आगे बढ़ा हो, pious credit हो, but if a person disrespects or insults a devotee, everything is gone. And that is what Prabhupada writes. All right, we'll stop at 10. We'll start at 11 tomorrow. Any additions? Prabhupada writes all these stories in the purport, beautiful. Even the next one, Prabhupada writes almost 2.5 pages of stories, with the Durvasa Muni. So if you are interested in the pastimes, very detailed explanation is given. Okay. Anyone? No? Chalo. ठीक है. ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय, जगत गुरु श्रीला प्रभुपाद की जय.
Jai.
Hare
Jai
Krishna.
Shri Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you,
Hare
Prabhuji.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna, everyone.